Hi, Meg here. There are three more ingredients that we need to talk about with presentation. So far we've talked about benefits and downside, evidence, story and signposting. There are three more, and I actually considered not making this video because I think it's going to be quite short because these three ingredients are reasonably straightforward. The first one is boundaries, and this came from noticing really good speakers do this one particular thing, which is they would say, in this presentation, what I'm not going to be able to do is this. What I am going to be able to do is this. And I think of that as setting boundaries, as setting scope around the presentation and the topic that you're talking about. And what it does is it does like a whole bunch of things, but two main things. One, it makes people really know they're in the right place and what to expect, sets expectations. But it also, in a few weeks, I'll do some videos on Q&A on the discussion that happens after a presentation. And by doing this one move, you can set yourself up to significantly reduce awkward questions that you can't answer, which I know is a big concern of lots of people, especially content specialists and academic scientists, lawyers. I know that that's a concern. So setting boundaries also helps you to know what you're doing, and of course what you're setting boundaries on is based on the 4 questions you've already thought about, particularly that what action do I want them to take, and you've planned backwards from that, and then inside that scope you can set it up so that people know what to expect. This also has implications as well for the title of your talk. If it's a public talk or the kind of presentation that would have a title, then giving it the right name so that it sets people's expectations can really help. So that's the first of the final 3 ingredients. The second one is silent questions, and really what I mean by that is go back to question 3, which was thinking about what are these people bringing in with them from their past and their present, and do your best to answer those questions either with overtly or with your manner. The more silent questions people are left with, the more uncertain they're going to be about following your recommendations, and hopefully the more those questions are going to turn into unsilent questions, into spoken questions. But you also don't know, sometimes people just walk away and don't ask the questions that they want answered. So the more you can think about what questions people are coming in with, and then as you're introducing each new point, what silent questions do they have now, then you're more able to create a more fluid and easier to digest presentation. The final ingredient is what I call experience matching, and this is connected to both question 3 and question 4, and you're really thinking about what is going on for these people right now in this world, in the world that you're touching. So if that's their work world, then what's going on in their work world, also potentially what's going on outside of that. I mean, it's really difficult. I hope to be looking back on this video in a future where Brexit didn't happen, but at the moment like people in Britain are thinking a lot about Brexit, and so you don't have to talk about that in every presentation, but it's something that's going on in people's mind, and if you're able to talk about the experience that's happening for them, you can help to create more of a resonance. Also, what's been going on for these people recently, or in the recent past, in their industry, or in their kind of roles that they take up. And what you're not doing is there's an old weirdo manipulative sales thing of getting people to say yes and yes and yes and yes, and that is not what I'm talking about. When you match their experience by saying out loud what's current for them, then you naturally create a bridge between you and them. If you don't know what's going on for them, you've got a couple of choices. One is to find someone who will be willing to talk to you. Just go, what's current? There are also, particularly these days, if you find online industry publications or things connected to these people, company stuff, internet stuff, things that are in the media, you can find out pretty easily what they're going to be aware of, so that you can just bring yourself into their world, and it makes you seem less of a less of an alien. You know, you're more the similar. Your energy is more of a similar colour to them. Of course, it may be that you're part of their world anyway, and so you're very fluently able to talk about that. See what I mean? It's really short. Like, those things are pretty straightforward. So those are all the ingredients that. Those are the ingredients that I talked about in the book, that you need to think about when you're putting together your presentation, to go, am I putting in benefits and downsides? Am I thinking about evidence? Am I putting in story? Am I signposting? Am I putting in boundaries for the topic? Answering silent questions and matching their experience. I would also add in, like, a meta, not really an ingredient but a pattern, is to think about contrast. Contrast is one of those secrets to being interesting and persuasive, and you need to think about what's being contrasted with what, and how are you pointing up that contrast. That can be super important. The next video is about something that I feel very strongly about, and you're going to hear me be quite dogmatic, I think, because we're going to talk about scripts and notes and where I stand on those, so that you know how to remember what you're going to say, but you can also maintain a connection with the group that you're talking to. So click whatever you need to in order to make sure you get the next video, and I'll see you in the next one.